Hey everyone, if I told you you had a story to be heard, would you tell it? Better yet, if you knew your story could help someone else, would you share it? Hi, I'm Christine Hotchkiss, and just like our fingerprints, I believe they're unique and original as to where they put us on our paths in our lives. Would you agree, LeAnn?
I would.
Even if we don't agree with it, it still puts us on a path. Today, my guest is LeAnn Hull. Thank you for letting me come into your home
Yeah.
and share your story because I believe everyone has a story that we could help somebody, give some hope. My one word is giving hope. Today, LeAnn talks about suicide. That's a very sensitive topic to a lot of people, but we're not here to say we're experts, but we're here to say that we've traveled it. Not we, you out there, but LeAnn has definitely traveled it. Excuse me, my travels is different with losing my daughter. That's how we know each other, but my tragedy is different than yours. And LeAnn is the founder of, you'll see behind here, Andy Hull Sunshine Foundation. What a bright color, bright kid, and a lot to say for. LeAnn, tell me about the foundation. How did it come about?
Well, it came about like you under unfortunate, tragic, traumatic circumstances when my 16-year-old son, Andy, he died by suicide in 2012. I knew, like you, that I had to do something rather than just laying on the concrete for the rest of my life. I mean, of course, we're going to get up off the concrete physically, but the rest then, how we deal with our lives on an emotional basis, we still have to get up off the concrete emotionally. And the foundation just emerged naturally. My desire was to share, for both of us, I'm sure we can say the same thing. We never want our kids to be forgotten. No. That was the first thing. I didn't want Andy's life to be defined by that one moment, how he died. I wanted his life to be defined by how he lived.
Absolutely.
And that was, that was up to me because no one else is a better advocate for our kids than their moms.
The one question I have, I won't say I avoid, but I have, you just took the words out of my mouth, is, oh my gosh, you heard of someone dying. Oh, how'd they die? How'd they die? I'm like, wait a minute. How'd they live?
Right.
And that's exactly what you just said, and that's how you're doing that with your organization. It's no different than I do or anyone else that has found something within their tragedy.
Well, and also, I wanted to control the narrative. And so that means that I have to take control of it right up front. So I didn't shy away from how he died. I never, from the very first moment, I would come right out and I would tell people, Andy died by suicide. And then I could go on and tell more about him. But otherwise, if I'm timid about it, then I'm leaving the narrative for someone else to control and someone else to control where, what they think and how they feel. And I'm a control freak.
I know when you talk about
that.
Control and you talk about what people want to say, people will draw their own conclusion. And the one topic that they love to draw a conclusion is suicide. Oh, well, there must have been something that made them do that.
Right.
And honestly, we don't know because they're no longer here. But what you can do is still, like you said, educate people as to what the suicide is. You did embrace the fact that this is what happened to Andy.
Right.
But then you gave it another step of, let me tell you who Andy is and how he and his legacy can help other people, other students. Because he was how old again?
He was 16.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, if you tell someone that they want to tell you their story, but if you shy away from it and you're scared of it, then you've missed an opportunity for us to connect and to maybe make an impact in someone else's lives. Because the suicide rate is so high, because self-harm, whether it's drug use, alcohol abuse, whatever that is, self-harm is really high in our society. And so by my beginning that conversation and opening it up to someone and saying, my son died by suicide, I'm making it a topic that someone then can share what's happened in their life.
I agree with you.
I've taken the fear away from the whole. Of course, I wish,
good,
no,
still,
no.
It never feels good.
Never. I wish I would do anything to have Andy back. But I can't change what's happened to me. So many of us, we lose our power and retreat when bad things happen to us. And one of the first statements I said, probably within an hour or two after Andy passed, was, I'm not the first mom to lose a kid. So what that did was it connected me with society in whole instead of isolating myself and saying, why me? Why my kid? Why'd this happen to my family? Why not? Why not me? And who better positioned to handle something so traumatic than me? Because I am strong and I am resilient, and I wanted the world to know
It's okay to not
it's
be
okay
okay.
to not be okay.
I say that all the time. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be okay. It hurts, but they'll say, "Oh, something good can come out of a tragedy." Well, if you want to use the term good, I suppose I want to say here it's telling a story and giving an education instead of having ignorance and assumptions.
Yeah. It gives me an opportunity to make an impact and an imprint on the world, just like the fingerprint you talked about. I have a greater opportunity to really make, I was thinking about this the other day, that Andy, at his memorial service, he had 2,500 people filled. Would 2,500 people come to my service? Well, I don't know. Is that important? Does that really matter? No, not necessarily. But I would like to think that I have reached thousands and millions of people with a message that's life-affirming and life-altering than to have just lived a quiet. Not that there's anything wrong with the quiet life, but my desire is to really make a difference in people's lives, to bring the sunshine. Andy was the sunshine in our lives, and so my goal is to bring the sunshine to you.
And we all know that even though the sun is shining behind the clouds,
Yeah.
the sunshine can still peek through the clouds.
Well, and we have to have the clouds because that gives us perspective. I've talked about that many times, that and everybody knows this. Everybody knows that that's the truth.
Right.
That without the darkness, we don't appreciate the light. Without the sadness, we don't appreciate the joy. Without the pain, we can't really fully appreciate love and happiness. We have to have both.
Gratitude.
Yeah, it gives us perspective.
It sure does. So what does the Andy Hull Sunshine Foundation do?
It started out just with small, what's the word? Naturally, there's a word.
Organic.
Organically, in that Andy's school asked if I would come and speak to 3,000 kids. And that was 4 months after he passed. Really wanted to share the message to the kids that they mattered.
Of course.
That their life is precious, that God's got a purpose for them, that they needed to stay on the planet, that Andy's path of suicide, that there are other paths that are better. And we wanted to convey that message because Andy was looked up to, and we didn't want anybody to look up to suicide. We wanted them to continue looking up to him and his sunshine, but then to give them other alternatives. How do you cope with the challenges that you're faced? And so to the kids, I wanted to help them to understand, well, what do you do when you don't get invited to homecoming? What do you do when you fail a class? What do you do if you don't make the team? And that even though those challenges may happen, you still matter, and you've got to figure out how to cope around the things that we're faced with. So teaching coping skills. And so the first presentation went so well that other doors were just open, and more requests came in. Would you come and speak to our school? And then I have 2 other boys in the military. And then it was like, would you come speak on the military base? And would you come talk to our church? And it wasn't, again, so much about talking about suicide. It grew from you matter to then teaching, how did I survive the loss of my kid?
That is a hard thing.
Yeah.
And you made a comment about strong. Anyone who's had a tragedy, especially losing a child, I can't imagine. We do, because it's our lives.
Right.
Our lives didn't stop when our children left. Our lives have to keep going. And that word strong keeps coming and coming and coming. But no one realizes that because of it, we are strong, not because we choose to. Well, we do choose to. But it's also in remembrance of our children, because we had that time with them. And if we were to sit there and boo-hoo, and it's okay if someone doesn't understand how to cope with it. I don't want to disrespect anyone who doesn't have the strength, as you and I have shared, that we have for ours. It's
Or the
okay.
tools.
Or the tools. And every situation is different. You can say a child died, but every situation is different. That's why I say it's a story, because everyone's story is different. It's similar, but it's different too as to how and why. You talked about speaking in front of students. Is that a particular grade level or is that of all ages?
It has evolved to lower and lower grade levels because our suicide rate has increased, and the age bracket has lowered and lowered, as young as 9 and 10-year-olds. And so the statistics say that if you want to enforce or to make a change in a society, you have to begin 5 years in advance messaging.
Yes.
And so if you've got a suicide rate where the primary age group is, let's just say 15 to 19, then you have to begin at age 9 and 10. Begin messaging that life-affirming message, teaching coping skills. How do you handle, because guaranteed, this is something I think people are missing. I guarantee you you're gonna face struggles in life. So not being prepared for them is foolish.
Well, and there's not always the situation where people can be prepared.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We weren't
weren't
prepared.
prepared for this,
No.
no. But in a sense we were. I did have some life skills already in advance that were there, that some of the things, my owning my own business and being married for so long and raising kids, and those were all tools, and my faith. Those are things that I had already in my toolbox so that I could utilize some of those strengths that I'd gained through just life experiences. But after that, I did have to go find a whole new group of tools because I didn't have the tools necessary to continue moving me forward. So what does someone that's younger do? They are not my age, and so they're not equipped with those tools yet. They don't have that long-term vision. They don't have the resiliency of understanding, well, I've gone through things and I've survived it. So when you're talking to a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, you have to teach them the skills that we've already acquired.
Well, and their minds are going to change as each decade I
Gosh,
call.
yeah.
I'm 50, voted shared your age. It's one of those. I'm not the same person I was at 40. I'm definitely not the same person when my daughter passed away when I was 37.
Right.
Everything just keeps moving forward. It's not like I have to keep up like technology does, but I better keep my tools in hand so that I can say, okay, I got to help these kids because the kids don't have these tools. They're going to school. They're not teaching coping skills. They're teaching other things, and we won't even talk about the education system because I don't.
Well, and being prepared to fail.
Yes.
So our society is so focused on success,
Yes.
that's not a bad thing, but you've got to balance it with the fact that you have to understand that in the process of getting that success, you absolutely are going to have failures. And how are you going to manage the failures? How are they going to affect your self-esteem? How are they going to affect you finding whatever is necessary within you to maneuver around the landmines that are in your presence?
Lots of them. So you also talk with the military.
I do.
Okay. What is your feedback on that? Because that's a totally different group.
Yeah, they're very, very structured. It's interesting because they do live within a box of a great regiment of rules and regulations. And to some extent, then it prevents them from thinking on their own. And it's challenging because even within the military where the messaging is that they're focused on suicide prevention, the challenge is still, if you are a military personnel and you go to your commander and you express that you have some self-harming thoughts, you have the potential of losing rank. And that's until they figure out a balance of that, of how do we support our military personnel and still allow them that protection to ask for help and their careers not be threatened. That's the key.
I sat down about a month ago with a veteran, and he shared with me, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he shared with me at his age and the feelings and those fellow friends that were veterans who have lost their lives to suicide. We've all heard how many veterans.
Yeah, it's 22 a day, which is underreported because that's
I'm sure.
22 that are reported, and there's so many that aren't reported. So
we can't restructure, as you said, they're in a box. We can't restructure them, but we do need to give tools, and even just in a small conversation, like you even said, in front of a group as well. A little bit can go a long way.
It's very well received when I speak, so it's really nice.
Okay.
They want that message out there. And so if we can teach coping skills and teach resiliency, then maybe we won't be dealing with personnel that are at that breaking point where they are contemplating self-harm.
And we're talking about kids and we're talking about veterans. Everybody gets a breaking point.
Sure.
It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, how old, where you come from. Everyone has a breaking point. So the tools, I think, are very helpful, and I appreciate that.
That's how the title to my book, How to Live When You Want to Die, because I did. So here I am. I'm the face and the voice of suicide prevention and healthy coping skills. Does that mean then that I don't have times when...
You have a breaking point?
Yeah.
I have mine.
Absolutely.
But I keep going.
That's the key. What do you do when you do feel like you want to die? What are some of the things that you're going to... Do you have a plan in advance? Because crisis management is not very effective. The challenge with, and I know for me, when I'm at that moment, when I'm feeling my lowest, it's really hard to reach out and ask for help.
And not feel like you're going to be judged,
Well,
or someone feels sorry
I didn't even have the
you.
energy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm so lost in my grief and my isolation and all of those things that for me to reach out and call someone and say, yeah, I'm not feeling so good. I don't, how are they going to respond? Most people aren't even equipped.
Know.
They won't know what
Especially
to do.
They haven't even been where you're at. So,
no.
And I think that's where we say, oh, I'm fine.
Right.
First time someone says I'm fine, when I ask them a question, I'm like, how are you really feeling?
Right.
I may not be able to help you in exactly what it is that you need help in, but how can I, even if it's a little bit, because I'm fine is not an acceptable statement.
Brene Brown. Are you familiar with Brene Brown?
I've heard of her.
Okay, she's an awesome speaker. I love to watch her and listen to her and read her books. And she really talks about the difference between empathy and compassion. Mm-hmm. And empathy is really being able to sit in that space with the person. Mm-hmm. Compassion is, I hope you feel better soon. Empathy is being able to sit there in that sadness with that person without trying to fix them. Because most of the time when I'm feeling that way, I don't want you to fix me.
Just hear me.
I just want you to sit with me.
Yeah. I was a volunteer first responder up in Yavapai County, and I'll actually be sitting down with them at the end of the month to share some of the stuff too. And that was one of the training things. Mm-hmm. It was, you're not to sit there and fix their problem. Mm-mm. You're there to lean in, to listen, and let them feel however they need to feel. But
sometimes I just wanted someone to sit there in silence with me. Yeah, just so that I wasn't alone. Yeah. And maybe it's just taking a walk so that it breaks that cycle that you're in. There oftentimes, and I have a variety of tools that I know that I have to use in order to stop that moment where I'm at.
Well, then there's other people too, because sometimes I get this way. I don't know if you do. Sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I don't want anyone around me.
Yeah.
Let me just be in my moment. And if I say that, please respect that. So if someone says, just let me have my space, please respect their space. Let them come back to you, because all you keep doing is pushing on them. It's not going to do any good.
Unless you can sense there's a danger. There is a place where, and I have called 911 for people. Recently. So while I do respect that, I'm also going to rely upon my own gut instinct, because we're usually pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I feel that someone's potentially going to harm themselves, I would rather err on the side of them being mad at me for calling or asking for help than to say, I wish I'd called and then
to know that I could have done something.
To know that I could have done something.
So I'm hoping that if I could put your information here, that you can be reached if someone has questions, and about your book.
Yes,
where can
absolutely.
you find your book?
Okay, so my book is on Amazon, How to Live When You Want to Die. It's in paperback and Kindle, so you can, whichever way you want. That's awesome. And while the title's a little bit daunting, How to Live When You Want to Die, it's actually a really uplifting book. It's not a memoir of Andy. It is the first 18 months and a whole list of great coping tools that can help you really maneuver through anything. It could be a divorce, a loss of job, an infidelity, a bankruptcy, our current situation. You know, there's lots of really great healthy coping tools in here. And you could also find me on www.leannhull.com. That's my website for the book. You can find Andy Hull's Sunshine Foundation, and that's at andyssunshine.com with 2 S's in the middle, andyssunshine.com. And there's contact forms on there that you can reach out and connect with me. If you would like You Matter wristbands, that's our primary message in the foundation, is that you matter. And so if you would like wristbands, they're free. All you have to do is fill out the form on our website. I'll mail you wristbands anywhere in the world. We ship them anywhere.
I've followed your stuff. I've known you for a while. We won't get into how because we already know how we met, and I do appreciate you. My final question, a lot of people don't think about this. I do because I know I'm walking every day with, we just talked about a legacy back here. When your last day is done, what do you want to be remembered for, or legacy do you want to leave?
That I brought the sunshine into your life, that I showed you how to see it, that you felt the warmth from my presence,
I like
that you felt like you mattered.
Definitely, you mattered. Everybody matters.
Yeah.
And I like that you make an emphasis on you matter. And I also want to make note of 2 things. And thank you for that, because I will always remember that. But we're not going anywhere, so don't
No.
leave anytime soon. I want to say thank you to our veterans, for sure, for all that they have done, what they are currently doing as far as our military. And if anyone has suicide thoughts, tendencies, she's not the expert. I'm not the expert. The book is not the one that has the information. Do reach out to the professionals,
Yes.
please. You do matter. How you feel is truly how you feel. No one can take that from you, but at least allow someone to work with you, walk through what you're feeling. Until next time, I wish you well, and you take care. Thank you, LeAnn.
Thank you.
All right, you take care.